Hello, everyone. We are very excited to have you here at Bishkek American Spaces live program with Nicole Holler, who is the Bishkek U.S. Embassy's Cultural Affairs Officer. Hi, Nicole. How are you?
Hi, I'm so excited to be here today and talk a little bit about U.S. Halloween traditions.
Yes. Thank you so much for joining the live session. Dear friends, today we have a very interesting program. Nicole will share, as we mentioned, about the Halloween traditions, and this holiday is also very popular in Kyrgyzstan, as we know, and maybe it's because it's full of unexplained mysteries. So please join, and I will remind that if you're with us, feel free to ask your questions. And today we will talk about Halloween traditions with our special guest Nicole Holler. It's the U.S. Embassy officer, and I see people started joining us, Nicole.
Great.
Um, yeah, I will give the stage to you.
Thank you. So thank you everyone for joining. I'm so happy to share a little bit about an American holiday that is, I think, fun and unique, and that we enjoy celebrating every year. This year's a little different because we're trying to celebrate Halloween during the pandemic. So I'm going to talk a little bit about how some of those traditions are adapting this year due to the pandemic, to coronavirus. And I'll also talk about some of the history around Halloween. So I have made a little presentation that Igreem is going to share with you all on the screen now. So I hope that we can go through it together. It shouldn't take too much time, and we'll have plenty of time at the end for your questions and comments if you want to share a little bit about your knowledge of Halloween. We're going to start with a little quiz, though. So let's go to the second slide. What are some U.S. Halloween traditions? Do you know? Do you want to put them in the chat? If you want to put comments in the chat with some of the Halloween traditions that you know about, let's see. Let's test your knowledge. Okay, so in addition to pumpkin carving, Irene, you can kind of click through the other Halloween traditions. So in addition to pumpkin carving, there's house decorating, there's trick-or-treating, costume wearing, parties, and telling spooky stories about witches, ghosts, vampires, and the like. So those are some of the traditions in the US. I know some of those traditions are popular in Kyrgyzstan. From my experience there during Halloween last year, I saw that people there also celebrate a lot of those same traditions. So I'll talk about some of these things today from the US perspective, and I hope you'll enjoy. Next slide, please. Okay, so as I said, we're going to talk about Halloween traditions, Halloween during COVID. I'll tell you a little bit about how my family is celebrating Halloween safely. I have a 2-year-old daughter, and she's really excited to trick or treat, but we're going to try to change some things about traditional trick-or-treating to make it safer this year. And at the end, I'll have time for questions, or you can share some of your thoughts or experiences with Halloween. All right, next slide. So Halloween traditions started in the US because of immigrants. Scottish and Irish immigrants brought some of their traditions around fall harvest festivals to their new country, the United States. But then in the 1900s, the holiday started getting commercialized with cards and gifts and people playing tricks on one another the day before the religious holiday of All Saints or All Souls Day. And then into the modern times, it's become something that's fun for children and adults alike, with kids trick-or-treating and adults celebrating by wearing costumes and going to parties. Next slide. So one of the most popular traditions in the US is pumpkin carving. Right now, if you go to any grocery store or market in the US, you will see pumpkins, tikvani, I think they are in Russian, and you can clean out the inside of the pumpkin, get all the seeds and the the guts out, and then people like to carve it and put candles inside, and then put them on their porches and around their houses, as well as and they're in shops, and you'll kind of start seeing them all over beginning in October. Next slide, please. Also super popular is costume wearing and trick-or-treating. So on October 31st, kids go dress in costumes and go door to door in their neighborhoods, or sometimes they'll go to like their parents' office. And then another tradition that's kind of popular this year is what's called trunk or treating, where people open up the trunks of their cars or the backs of their cars and park in a big parking lot so that kids can go around to the different cars if they don't have a neighborhood that's safe to walk around in. So the kids wear costumes. The costumes can be store-bought, or oftentimes families will make costumes from things they have around the house. I know this year, for example, we'll be dressing my daughter as a kitty cat. And so she'll be wearing black pants, black shirt, and a little mask and a headband with cat ears. But you can also find costumes in stores. You can buy them online. And I think some popular costumes for all times are like vampire, ghost, popular characters from kids' storybooks and movies, like the characters from Frozen are really popular right now. And always, you see kids dressed as like pumpkins, vampires, and ghosts. Next slide, please. And then for adults, older kids. So I should say kids kind of stop trick-or-treating, I think, around the age of like 12 or 13. It's definitely in the US, I think, something that's perceived as more of a little kids activity. And as kids get older, and certainly adults, we'll celebrate with Halloween parties. So everyone will dress in costume, listen to music, maybe play games like bobbing for apples, where you have the big like bucket of water with apples inside and you try to pick them up with your mouth, or different kinds of games like trivias or quizzes, and wearing costumes and dancing on Halloween night. And so that's definitely one way that people celebrate when they kind of age out of trick-or-treating. Next slide. So some things are going to be different this year, though, because of COVID. Like, we can still carve pumpkins because we can do that, in our homes and without coming into contact with other people. People are still decorating houses. I've shared here a picture of a house in the neighborhood where I'm staying in the US now, where people have put skeletons all over the house. There's skeletons climbing the windows and looking off the roof. And, we have our little stoop, our stairs and railing in front of our house decorated with cobwebs and spiders and pumpkins. So people are still decorating their homes. We're still carving pumpkins. Trick-or-treating is something that's going to be a little bit different this year, and I'll talk about that and give like an example of how people are adapting trick-or-treating to make it safe and socially distanced. Can definitely still wear costumes. There's just not as many places to wear them because a lot of parties are canceled, given some concerns around, gathering people together in close spaces as the weather gets cold. Parties have been discouraged, so there's less of that happening. But people are still telling spooky stories. There's still lots of scary movies to watch on television. And people are still, telling kids stories about ghosts and witches and that kind of thing. Next slide. So I agree, if you want to click the link, if you just click on this picture, it'll take us to a video link, and I'll show you a kind of viral video here about a family that made a socially distanced way to safely trick-or-treat by delivering candy to trick-or-treaters through a little ghost delivery system. So I agree, I don't know if you can get that video by clicking on the link in the picture.
Yes, I click it. Now
Not working?
Downloading. I will share it as soon as it will be ready. So let me check. Okay. I I think I
So
should.
people are coming up with all kinds of creative ways to ensure that trick-or-treating is safe this year. Another idea that I've seen is people putting candy on sticks and then putting them in their yards so that people can just come and grab the stick without having to knock on their neighbor's door to ask for candy, which is how trick-or-treating traditionally works. Because that's not safe to do this year, because obviously you have to be in close proximity to someone to knock on their door and ask for candy, people have come up with some other ideas, and this is one of them.
Can you see now?
Yeah.
The video?
Yep.
Okay, let me put on it.
So this is something that folks in one neighborhood developed with, there's a beer for dad and candy for the kids. And the family just puts the treats in the basket and sends it from the front porch. And that way nobody has to get close to each other and people can be safe trick-or-treating without worrying about coronavirus.
Should I pause it or should we?
Yeah, we can pause it and go back to the PowerPoint. Thank you.
Okay, it's so nice.
So people are thinking about ways to safely trick-or-treat. As I mentioned, the traditional way to trick-or-treat is going up, knocking on your neighbor's door, and then asking for candy. But because we can't do that without getting within a meter of each other, this year people have come up with some other ideas. Next slide.
Okay, just a second. Okay. Wait a second, I have some technical issues.
No worries.
Okay. I think it's ready to share. Here's it.
Okay, so this is the other idea that I mentioned that some people are doing, which is putting candy on sticks in yards so that kids can just come up and grab the candy without having to go up to the door and interact with someone face to face. Next slide. And then, of course, people are wearing masks. Some people are even incorporating masks into their Halloween costumes so that they can safely knock on their neighbors' doors or trick-or-treat in groups with family or close friends. Next slide, please. So for example, in my family, my daughter really wanted to dress as a cat. So we got her a mask like the one in the picture that looks like little cat whiskers and nose. So she can go on her first trick or treat and she'll go to her grandparents' house and her aunt's house, but she's only going to trick or treat at family's house and she's going to be wearing her mask. So I know other families that we've talked to in the US are planning similar things for their kids, which will enable them to safely trick or treat with people that they know, wearing masks and being socially distanced. So next slide. So I wanted to end with a quiz and see if anyone knows which of these candies is not a popular Halloween candy. The first candy you see on the left is a candy corn. The middle one is a chocolate and peanut butter pumpkin. And then the third one on the right is a candy cane. If you want to comment in the chat and see if you're right, I'll give you a minute. Otherwise, I will tell you that the candy cane is actually something that we traditionally have at Christmas, but candy corn and the Reese's chocolate peanut butter pumpkin are very popular treats on Halloween. Although the candy corn is a very divisive treat, a lot of people think it's very yucky. I, for one, do not enjoy candy corn. I think they taste like pure sugar and they're kind of gross, but lots of people like them. So with that, I will conclude my presentation and take any questions that you have about Halloween in the US in general, Halloween in the US this year, or if you want to share in the chat some of your experiences celebrating Halloween or how you plan to celebrate safely this year, we can mention those.
Yeah, thank you, Nicole, for this very insightful introduction to this holiday. And it was really interesting. And so many new things we learned. And also, I like the idea with masks. I didn't buy a costume to my daughter yet. And I really like the idea to safely trick or treating, like to have a mask with cat kitten in it, yeah, on it.
Yeah, she's very excited to be a cat.
Yeah, this is so nice.
Yeah,
Let
so
me check.
I'll be dressing. She wants me to dress as a mouse. So I have mouse ears and a little mouse mask to wear to cover my face while we're trick or treating.
Oh, cool. And what about your husband? Is he also going to wear
I don't know what
costume?
his costume is. He will definitely wear a mask. We always wear masks now when we leave the house, but I don't know what his costume is going to be. He hasn't told me. I think it's a surprise.
So he's going to surprise you. We have some comments here from Manas Murzaliyev. I think he's answering questions here, pandemic, or maybe it's like this this question. Hello, how are people in the USA celebrating Halloween during the pandemic? He's asking.
Yeah, that's a great question. So, as I mentioned, like I think people are planning on trick or treating, but only with close family and friends who they're kind of regularly in contact with. Obviously, people are avoiding large gatherings like Halloween parties. So that's one tradition that won't be happening this year because we can't safely attend parties. Some other ways that people are celebrating by watching movies. There's a lot of movies that are kind of spooky that people enjoy watching during the holidays. I know that many people that are like who don't have kids or after their kids go to bed, they plan to have like Zoom parties. So parties on like Zoom or online where they are hanging out with their friends and maybe like talking and having some drinks and doing what they might ordinarily do at a Halloween party just online. And then, of course, like I mentioned, the traditions of house decorating. People are still decorating houses. People are still carving pumpkins. So I think that the tradition is alive. It's just going to be a little different this year.
Oh, I see. Here we have a question. What was your first Halloween costume in your childhood?
Oh, that's a good question. So my first Halloween costume was a pumpkin. I think that one is like a pretty popular one for kids. Let me see if I used to have a picture of it on my phone. I can like hold it up and show you guys. You can see.
From your childhood, do you have
Uh-huh.
picture? Oh,
I think
wow,
it's on
that's
my phone. So I'm just gonna look real quick and see if I have it to share.
yes, please
But
share.
yeah, my mom, growing up, my mom made all of our Halloween costumes. She's a really great seamstress. I am not. I could not sew to save my life. But my mom was a great seamstress. And so she sewed Halloween costumes for my brother, who's younger, and my sister, who's younger, and me, since we were really little. And I think one of the first costumes that we all wore because it passed down, we all got to wear it. We passed it down, was the pumpkin. So I'm just seeing if I have it.
Yeah, I want to remind our viewers, you can leave your comments and ask your questions live. We are talking about Halloween traditions. Please leave your comments and ask your questions to our U.S. Embassy Cultural Affairs Officer Nicole Holler.
Okay, I don't have the picture, unfortunately, but it was
Okay.
a pumpkin.
Yeah, so cool. And we have another question. Are there any people who are against Halloween celebrations in the United States?
Yes, I think so. So I think some of the earliest origins of Halloween, which have to do with pagan traditions, and I mean pagan in the sense of people that were not Christian, did not observe Christian traditions revolving around Jesus and God. They celebrated things that were more in tune with nature, and like and because Halloween was a harvest festival, it was viewed as something aligned with pagans. And so I think early Christians viewed it as something that was not Christian. And I think, aspects of that history are certainly still present today. I think there are some people who are, strictly religious and still view it as a not Christian holiday, and therefore they don't celebrate it. But in general, I think that the holiday Halloween has lost a lot of its religious connotations and affiliations. It's more now just something for kids and adults to kind of have fun with and celebrate. It's not, I think, as closely aligned with any religious tradition anymore.
Yeah. Thank you for your answer. And here we have a very interesting question. What is the difference between Halloween and Mexico's Day of the Dead celebration? They seem very similar for me.
Yeah. So I have to say, I'm not so familiar with the Mexican Day of the Dead tradition. Their holiday is, I believe, celebrated on November 1st. It does have closer ties to religion, and in particular, I think the Catholic religion. And their Day of the Dead originally was meant to honor those who passed away by visiting their graves and paying homage to people who have died. And it also includes now, I think, in modern times, some costumes and maybe in some cities, like bigger parades and street parties. So I think it's celebrated on a different day. It has closer ties to Christianity and specifically Catholicism, or at least it did originally. And it's more, I think the focus is more on adults celebrating, as I understand it. And then our Halloween is more like kids going around, and it started out as people playing tricks or asking for treats and wearing costumes. So I think they're closely aligned, but slightly different.
Yeah. So it's in the same month, so you can start celebrating this holiday and end up with Halloween. Yeah, we have here next question. What are the traditional food dishes that families cook during the Halloween?
So I don't know that it's so much traditional Halloween food. I think during the month of October and during autumn, when things like pumpkins and squash are in season, people like to make things with pumpkin and some of the autumn spices that are kind of associated with the season, like cinnamon, nutmeg, cloves. Those kind of smells and tastes are very much part of Halloween traditions. And so because the pumpkin is in season and people are carving pumpkins, oftentimes people will make things with pumpkin. So you can get everything from like a pumpkin bread or pumpkin cookies, pumpkin flavored coffees. You can also find like pumpkin stuffed pasta. Like I know pumpkin Monty is popular in Kyrgyz Republic. I had some last year that was really good. And so you'll have like pumpkin raviolis or pumpkin stuffed pastas throughout the month.
Yes. I also like the pumpkin month.
Yeah.
Here we have a question about, again, candies. What is the most popular Halloween candy in your state? And what do you usually cook for your family on these dates? That's a very similar question to our previous.
Yeah. So the most popular Halloween candy, I think, in my state, probably the Reese's peanut butter cups. Like those are the Reese's pumpkins. Like the pumpkin picture that I showed you, it's a chocolate covered peanut butter pumpkin is really popular. And I think personally that's one of the best Halloween candies. And then as far as what do I cook or what does my family traditionally eat? October is when it starts getting cold here. And so traditionally we've made like a soup called chili, which is like beef and tomatoes and peppers, like ground beef, tomatoes, peppers in in like kind of a thick tomato-based sauce with some spices because it's a little bit spicy and it's warm, so it kind of warms you from the inside on a cold day. So if you're going out trick-or-treating at night, you can eat a little chili and get warm. So that's what I traditionally cook for my family. That's what my mom made for us on Halloween growing up, and now that's what I make for my family on Halloween. Yeah.
Oh, nice. Thank you for your answer. And we have here another question uh, about this topic. How do young people celebrate Halloween in the US? Parties.
Yes. So I would say like little kids from like, 1 or 2 years old to 12 or 13 years old, they will go trick or treating. But then older kids and people will typically have parties with costumes, and there's costume contests, music. There's a couple of like Halloween songs, like Michael Jackson's Thriller is a very popular Halloween song. So people will have Halloween parties, dance to kind of Halloween spooky themed music, and have contests for the best costume or the scariest costume, most creative. So that's how I think most people celebrate after they're too old for trick or treating.
Okay, thank you. And here, people asking about movies. What Halloween movies you can suggest for
Oh my
people?
gosh. Well, so many good
Yeah.
ones. Um, so my daughter's favorite Halloween movie right now is actually based on a book called Room on the Broom. It's about 20 minutes long, and it's about a
Oh,
witch who is, flying through the woods and makes various friends who all join her on her broom because she's flying around on a broom. So that's been really popular in our house this year. There's also another movie based on a popular children's book called The Witches. The book is by Roald Dahl, who's an English author, and it's about a little boy who encounters women who are in fact witches in disguise on a mission to exterminate all children. So even though it's a children's story, it's a little bit scary, and that was really popular with me and my siblings growing up, and I still like it now.
wow,
Um,
nice.
and then the last movie I have to recommend is like a newer one, but not so new. It was, I think it came out in like the 90s, called Hocus Pocus, about three witch sisters who come back from the dead. And there's like a group of friends who are teenagers who accidentally bring them back. And just like the kids have to save their town from these witches. So it's a fun story. It's really it's funny, and I like that one too. It's very in the season.
Oh, thank you. Can you send us in a message so that we can share later with
Yeah,
these book
sure.
titles? Yeah, and the
Yeah, yeah. The books
movie.
I can definitely share.
Yeah, thank you. And here we have question: what is your favorite Halloween costume that you have worn? You already answered for this question, I guess. Yeah, about pumpkin, or it was your first
That
costume.
was
Oh,
my
yeah.
first one.
What was your favorite one? Yeah.
Yeah, my favorite Halloween costume was also one that my mom made for me when I was a little bit older. I dressed as Cleopatra, the Queen of Egypt. So I had a black wig, and
Oh,
I wore a
wow.
white dress and had all this like big gold jewelry that I got to wear. So that was really fun. And yeah, like I said, growing up, my mom was a really good seamstress, and Halloween costumes like when I was younger, they were kind of expensive, I think, in the stores. So my mom made them for us. Now that I'm older, I tend to try to buy my Halloween costumes, but I don't like buy anything elaborate. And for my daughter, like we just buy little accessories like a headband or a mask that she can wear to make a costume.
Oh, nice. Yeah,
But I think
Cleopatra.
it's pretty common now for people to buy costumes, or you could even rent them. Like you can just pay for them and have them for a day or two. So I think that's pretty popular now.
Yeah, especially like I think it's popular now everywhere. Yeah, this Halloween celebration. We have
Yeah.
another question about holidays here. Um, um, it is. It was. It. It's always unclear for me how the St. Patrick's Day should be celebrated?
Hmm. So, I think the way that St. Patrick's Day is celebrated depends on where you live. That is another holiday that I think, from what I understand, is closely aligned with the Catholic religion and the Saint Patrick from Ireland.
Mhm.
And so I think in cities where you have a larger Catholic population, they have bigger celebrations. For example, Chicago, and also my hometown, or in Boston, and then my hometown of New Orleans has a really big St. Patrick's Day celebration. So I haven't seen how so many other American cities celebrate St. Patrick's Day, but in my hometown of New Orleans, there is a very big parade where people throw cabbages and potatoes to make soup, which is like a popular Irish dish, I guess. And then people dye beer green and drink green beer and wear green colors because that is associated with Ireland and St. Patrick, where St. Patrick is from. So that's how St. Patrick's Day is celebrated. It's definitely more of, I think, an adult's holiday. And it started out as a religious one, but has kind of morphed into something that people use as an excuse to have a party.
Okay, thank you for explanation. It's always like I think it's interesting for most of our viewers how it should be celebrated. This
Yeah,
Saint
it's different
Patrick's Day.
everywhere, and different families have different traditions, and yeah, so you
Yeah.
can do whatever you want.
So
I think I have time for like maybe one or two more questions, and then I have to do another meeting.
okay, okay. So I will not repeat similar questions, and I will ask this: What is your family's most loved holiday? We
Mm.
have here a question,
Um,
and the next is what type of Kyrgyz holiday celebrations are you familiar with, and have you had a chance to attend one of the Kyrgyz holidays? So
okay,
these two questions.
so I think those questions are related because my family's favorite holiday is Christmas. Um, uh, Growing up, that was always a really big deal in our house. We decorated a Christmas tree, exchanged gifts, had a big family meal. And so my favorite holiday and the one that I really enjoyed getting to see celebrated last year was the New Year's. Um, at the embassy, I got to see all the decorations going up, and I heard from the people I work with who are from the Kyrgyz Republic about their traditions and how they celebrate with their families. And then it was wonderful to be in the city and see all the homes and businesses with lights, and see all of the gifts available at the stores and in the markets. And I thought it was a really fun time, and I got to see the singing shows on the old Russian performance shows on TV. I watched a couple of those, so I really enjoyed being around for Kyrgyz New Year, and my family has always enjoyed celebrating Christmas.
Oh, thank you, Nicole, and thank you, dear viewers, for participating in our live session. I hope it was useful for you, and you could learn something new for yourself. And happy Halloween, everybody.
Happy
Stay
Halloween.
safe, stay healthy. Bye, Nicole.
Hi.
Bye.